Let's get this party started.
Well, speaking of parties, quite a party on Saturday night. What was the tone setter in your mind? What set the tone for your defense on Saturday?
Well, I think that, honestly, the thing that really set the tone for us was being able to play at home and see the Red Wave and the band and all the great things that they were able to bring. That just literally, I think it kicked the energy level to a whole nother stage for our players, and you could hear them talking about it. They loved it. They enjoyed it. And then most of the time it's going to take you just kind of settling in and having a chance to be able to make a play. So once you get a tackle for loss or you get them backed up and you make them get that first punt, then the chess match is real and everything starts to fall into play after that.
And, you know, so far you've played 8 quarters at home. You've only given up 1 touchdown, and it was on a 5-yard field after a turnover. Yeah. Why do you think that is? Where do you think that comes from, that degree of consistency?
Well, it's just good team football, something that we talk about as a staff with myself, Coach Grubb, and Coach Schmidt, as we all try to work together. When you talk about how you win football games, how you win championships, the team and the organization has to be working hand in hand. And the one thing we still have to do is we're still frustrated and upset that we gave up that touchdown, because it doesn't matter how you get on the football field. When we're down in the red zone, we have to be better. And we got to find a way to give the ball to the offense back down there on the 5-yard line to give them a short field, of which we did in this last game with the fumble right after halftime. But those are some things that we try to do where we're trying to work hand in hand as a staff to figure out ways that we could, in a sense, be creative to make sure we can do everything in our power to stop teams from scoring points.
Well, and that challenge is a little bigger this week against a UCLA team that has scored a lot of points. Going into it, what's the overview for you on the challenges that this Bruin offense poses?
This is going to be what you call real football. Your cleats need to be laced up. Your helmet needs to be strapped. The air needs to be in it, and your shoulder pads need to be ready, because this is a spread offense where physicality is a premium for them. They have a great physical offensive line, 2 running backs that hit the hole downhill, getting vertical right now, and a quarterback that can make guys miss, and they try to get more than one at the point of attack. So we have to make sure that we're great and we're ready to do everything in our power to get the ball back for our offense.
One of those running backs is Kasmir Allen, a kid from Tulare. What have you seen on film from him, and what sort of challenges does he provide?
When he is on the field, most of the time he's the fastest guy out there. and you have to know where 19 in line. So I think they've done a good job of keeping him in multiple spots where he was in the backfield, he was displaced, and being able to get the ball fast to the edge. They're doing a great job of utilizing his skills and abilities, and we got to do a great job on our end, just making sure we know where he is.
In fall camp, you said this defense was starving for the opportunity to respond from last year. How would you kind of assess the defense going into, an opportunity to kind of redeem what we saw at Oregon?
I would say that the guys they're still snacking on everything, to where we're not full yet. There are still things that we still have to accomplish, still things that we still have to do, and each week we come in and the bar has to be reset. How it was last week, that is thrown out. We have a 24-hour rule. It is gone. You have to get ready to come to the next stage again this upcoming Saturday.
The benefit, Coach, of a game like the way that the game that you just played, the way that it went, the benefit is that you got a lot of playing time for a lot of backups. Anybody that has earned playing time potentially against UCLA?
Just it always comes down to making sure when you get through practice, that's something that we do with every one of our positions. We go through the practice levels and see who has kind of earned that particular right from their body of work and practice. So we always reassess that as we get during the week.
Another big game for Evan Williams. Does he seem like a man on a mission this season to kind of capitalize on what's already been working for him as a Bulldog?
Yeah, one thing that Evan has been really trying to do, and something that he set out for last year, was to separate himself. And I told him, if you want to set yourself out to do that, I'll do everything in my power to make sure we can create what we call filters, to where often we're trying to filter the ball to him and the safeties, and that's how our defense operates. And he's been able to do a great job of being able to make those plays at the point of attack. And the thing that he does great is the energy that he brings to the table. It just allows our defense to just get to another gear from an enthusiasm standpoint.
Chip Kelly's offense has changed so many times through so many different stops, from Oregon to the NFL, obviously back to UCLA now in his 4th season. What type of an offense do you think you're going to see from a Chip Kelly coach team on Saturday?
An offense that is ready to beat you in the head. And that's exactly what they've shown on film. The offensive line-wise, they do a great job. Running backs, they get downhill. Receivers are very skillful and skilled. They're exactly what you'd want out of a top-tier college football team. You don't see very many weaknesses. They probably see them, but when you see it on film, they do a great job of covering it up. Probably the thing that I have enjoyed seeing from them the most, they're a fast tempo team where it's not, coming out here playing in, T-shirts and shorts. They're a fast tempo team where you have to have your cleats in the ground, your pads behind you, and ready to be able to fit the respective runs on the plays that they possess.
Any specific things that stood out when you watched their game against LSU?
How over time they just physically overwhelmed them and had one more guy than LSU at the point of attack. And they had just enough motions and shifts and tempo to keep them off balanced.
You've got a lot of guys on this team from Southern California, some specifically from the LA area. How important is a game like this for recruiting to find future Bulldogs?
Oh, great. One of the things we tell them, and when you go back to the legendary phrases of Coach Pat Hill, anybody, anytime, anywhere, from a recruiting standpoint, that's exactly what this represents. Again, the opportunity to play another team in California, going to a major fertile recruiting ground, and being able to let our brand get out there in Bulldog football.
Hey, Coach, you guys have been able to get to the quarterback a lot this year. Aaron Mosby has 2 strip sacks. Kevin Atkins was able to, get to the Cal Poly quarterback twice. Just what have you seen from the defensive line that's been able to get pressure on the quarterbacks this year?
Playing hard. That is something that we tell our players. When you play hard and you play with fanatical effort, great things happen, because you don't know on any given player you're going to be the person that's going to get the sack. There's a couple of times where Kevin Atkins got the sack. It wasn't supposed to be for him, but just because he was playing so hard and playing with fanatical effort, he was able to be in the right place at the right time and be able to make the play on the quarterback.
Coach, UCLA's got a tight end, Greg Dulcich, number 85. Looks like a really, really good player. What challenges do you think he'll present to you on Saturday?
85 is a stud. He definitely reminds me of some of the tight ends that I've seen kind of historically at my alma mater at the University of Iowa, where he is long, he is athletic, he is aggressive, he is great at the point of contact, but out in space, when he is running vertical down the seams, you haven't seen very many guys that can run with him. So it's going to be a challenge for sure. We have to make sure that our guys are ready and prepared to defend him.
Coach, you faced some quarterbacks that have some mobility this season, but it seems like UCLA's might have a different level. What kind of challenge does that present in itself?
Just making sure that in some of those passing situations that you have someone who always has, in a sense, one eye on him. The other thing that you have to make sure is that whoever that person is, that they can be fast enough to be able to catch him, because he has shown the ability to be able to run away from people and be able to make some plays, stay alive with his feet.
Coach, with Elijah Gates being from UCLA, do you think he has extra motivation towards playing his old school?
As mature as Elijah is, we feel as though he's kind of taken the humble and hungry approach to where it's just another game for him. He knows that we're his new home. We try not to, in a sense, dwell on things that happened in the past. So we're just great that he is here with us, and I feel as though he's going to take this very, 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 very mature and approach it like it's business.
Any more questions for Coach Inge?
All right, go Dogs. Mm-hmm.
Bring up Coach Grubb.
Good morning. How we doing? Good.
So, Coach, a lot of points, a lot of players getting reps, and a little more of your playbook than we had seen before. What pleased you the most about Saturday's effort against Cal Poly?
No turnovers. Number one. So that was a big point of emphasis going into the week, and they did a good job with that. So offensively, anyways, no turnovers. So that was a big deal to us. And then being able to respond to a little bit of a slow start and execute some of the bigger plays that we had that we felt like we had good shots at, and getting the football down the field. So that was good.
Yeah, the football was down the field a lot, and one of those was the double pass with Jalen.
Yeah.
How impressed were you with his execution there? Because I can't remember the last time I saw a guy actually throw it with that much pressure in his face as the second guy to throw a pass on that play.
I mean, Jalen does that stuff all the time, so I can't say I was surprised that he made the play, but unbelievably impressed. I mean, that guy impresses me every time I step out on the field with him, whether it's practice or a game. So it's fun to watch him. And even if you think back to the 2019 game at Hawaii, he threw a dime to Zane Pope on a reverse pass, and did a great job with that one as well.
And you had the shuffle on the offensive line because of an injury issue. How would you evaluate your O-line play, and what's the priority for them Saturday night at the Rose Bowl?
They did a good job. I think that they gelled pretty quickly throughout the week. And Bula Schmidt, played center for us and has been a guy that's gotten a lot of snaps for us in the past. He's an experienced player all the way back to his freshman year. And, I think they're doing a better job of taking care of Jake, keeping him upright and keeping him clean. That was one of the issues going into the season. And I feel like they're developing in that regard, and going into Saturday's game with UCLA, that'll be a huge component to getting a win.
Coach, I'm sure you're seeing it in practice with Jalen Henderson, but what can you say about seeing his performance in a game setting, and has he kind of firmly established himself as the backup to Jake?
Yeah, we're going into the UCLA game with Jalen as the backup again, and he obviously has some tools with his feet. Made a couple nice runs. It would have been nice to get him going a little bit more in a few of the past games. But late in the game like that, in the situation we were in, I think it was appropriate what we were running, and didn't want to get too carried away. But he's doing a good job. He's getting better every week, and he has to. Him and Logan both are still growing as quarterbacks, and honestly, they still both have a long ways to go, but we're getting there. So he's done a good job.
Sure, the Red Wave remembers the last trip to the Rose Bowl and that win in 2018. When you put in the tape, just how different is this UCLA team versus what you guys saw those years ago?
Respectfully, I think night and day. I think they're a much more physical team. I think that they're much more disciplined. Just watching them run to the football, the execution piece of their defense is much higher. So I think they're a really different team.
What have you seen from UCLA on film this season, specifically from that win over LSU a couple weeks ago?
I think they're a really good tackling football team. Very solid. I know they missed a few tackles on number one for LSU. He's a really good player. But I felt like they were a solid tackling team, and then very diverse. You look at their coverage structure, and they're purposely very thin in the number of looks they're going to give you with each coverage. So I think there's a lot of subtle changes in some of their coverage structure that'll be different than some of the teams we played to this point. And then a lot of pressure.
The conversations that you have with Jake this week, any little picture and then any big picture things that you want him to worry about specifically in this game on Saturday?
The little picture things, I think, will be him working out the details every day in practice and just continue to refine them, because this is going to be a detail-oriented game plan, and one that Jake's going to have to be really dialed on early in the week. And then big picture, just reminding him that it's, the preparation is what it is, and it's still every week is a tough challenge. And I realize the caliber of player might be better that we're playing this week, but the challenge of the right type of preparation has to be the same. And I think that the guys did a really good job of that last week. It's something we can build on and hopefully carry over to the UCLA game.
Since you guys don't play until 7:45 on Saturday night, what are you going to have the team do, or are you going to monitor what they do on Saturday? Because you guys will get down there on Friday, of course, but on Saturday to keep them amped up but not too overhyped by the time kickoff arrives?
Yeah, luckily for us, this is not a foreign deal for the team. We've been doing that for a long time, and I just remember all the way back to 17 when I first got here. That was a very foreign concept for me as a Midwesterner, just not knowing what to expect during the day. But I think the guys at this point really have a good grasp on what they need to get done and the process they have to go through during a day when they have to wait for that game. But we've got a good Coach DeBoer has a good schematic set up as far as the day and the process, and just making sure we get them up, get them out of bed, get them thinking about football, walkthroughs, and then at the appropriate time get them rolling again. But we'll have all kinds of little meetings, reminder sessions. I think the challenge typically is guys getting too amped too early and expending energy that they don't need to use yet. So keeping them in a pretty stable frame of mind throughout the day is very important. And they do a great job with that. We have a lot of older players that, are used to that, and they do a good job helping mentor the young guys.
Hey, Coach, can you just talk about the receiving core that you have this year? In the last game, I know Jalen had a touchdown reception. Josh Kelly had a couple. Zane, and Carrick. So Ty didn't have one, but he's still there. Just talk about the receiving core this year and how good they can be, and how many weapons you guys have for Jake to throw the ball to.
Yeah, I think you kind of hit the nail on the head. There's a lot of different spots the ball can go, and luckily for us, it's a good room, and they have the right attitude about that. And that can be a negative for some teams when you have so many talented kids in a room, and it can be difficult to distribute the ball to all of them. But I think people see our guys on film, and even a guy like you mentioned, Ty Jones, who didn't get the ball necessarily last week, but absolutely could break out and be a 5-catch, 100-yard guy any day, And Carrick Wheatfall, they know is a home run threat, and Jalen can do a little bit of everything, and then Josh Kelly is a huge threat. And you see a guy like Zane Pope, and you kind of fall asleep on him, and then all of a sudden he has a 50-plus yard touchdown catch. So I think those guys, the diversity of that room and the skill sets that they have is the strength, and we'll continue to manufacture different ways to get a bunch of different guys the ball.
Coach, is there any update you can share on Matt Smith?
Yeah, he's doing good. He's rehabbing and progressing, and I think he's getting better every day. And we're hoping to push him and see what he can get done this week. Probably midweek he'll be rolling around a little bit and see where he's at by then. But he's doing good.
And going back to 2018, I wanted to just get your kind of memory and takeaway of that experience and environment with the Red Wave and getting the win, and how nice it would be to replicate that.
Yeah, that was a fun day for sure. I think the guys were definitely ready for the environment, and excited about playing the environment. I heard a question to Coach Inge about that, and I think we have close to 88 or 90% of our football team is from California, so playing in the Rose Bowl is a big deal, and every week is an important football game, but there's no question that going down there and getting a win is pretty special for all these guys. So in 18, I think when they were able to go down there and do it in a pretty dominating fashion in that day, both defensively and offensively, playing a really physical style of football was a lot of fun because we kind of did it our way in bulldog type football, so it was a good time. And I think it's obviously great motivation. There's still guys on this team that got to experience that and be able to tell the guys what it felt like to have the fans right there in the tunnel when we were walking off the field with a W. So it'll be a lot of fun.
Coach, will there be an emphasis this week on establishing the running game? Last time you guys played a Pac-12 foe, obviously the running game averaged 2.6 yards per carry. So I was just wondering if maybe this time around against a Pac-12 opponent, will you guys focus on more of establishing a running game?
We always do, and that's always going to be part of the game plan. And especially getting Ronnie and Jordan started on the ground is where it always starts. And if we're not able to get that going, feel confident in our pass game that we can still move the football. But, yeah, getting that going and being a little more consistent on early downs will be a point of emphasis for sure.
And Jordan Mims had a good game last time against UCLA. I would just figure he would be somebody that's kind of focused more in terms of the offensive attack this time around, just like he was last time.
Yeah, for sure. And even last week, Jordan was a guy that, we always go back and evaluate reps and things like that. And I think Jordan had somewhere close to 25 to 27 reps in the game on Saturday. And for a starter type of guy that's only playing the first 2.5 quarters, it was a decent number of reps. Just didn't necessarily get all the touches that he normally would get, but he'll absolutely be a big part of the game plan.
And what's it going to take, like you mentioned, obviously you want to establish a running game, that's a given, but what's it going to take to get it to the next level to where we saw last season, where Ronnie Rivers is able to have big carries and big runs? Is it going to take maybe a physical guy like Mims against a physical team like UCLA to establish those outside runs for Ronnie?
No, I think that they both can do it. I think they're both very capable backs in all of our scheme as far as running the ball. And I think the big piece is the consistency when you see people moving around and the O-line just being able to handle the movement. And when they can do that, the seams will start opening up. And I do think our passing game will continue to help the run game and, continue to threaten people down the field with the ball and open up some of those running lanes. So when they stack the people in the box, we feel like we got the people on the outside to get the ball down the field.
And my last question is, it looked like Cesar Silva was suited up. He could have played if you guys had needed him to play, but he didn't play. What's the status right
Who
now?
is that? Who are you?
Cesar Silva, the
Yeah.
kicker. Where's the status now in terms of this week, if he's going to be able to suit up or play for UCLA or against UCLA?
Yeah. No, I think Cesar kicked all week and did a pretty good job. It just was one of those things where, Abe was doing a really good job, and I think Cesar was still nursing it a little bit. So just protecting Cesar and making sure that he was okay, and Abe was doing a nice job, so there's no point in pushing Cesar past that.
Hey, Coach, in a road game against Oregon, you guys didn't get off to like the fastest start, but against UCLA, is that going to be a goal, trying to get to a fast start in the first quarter?
It is. You put that really politely. Going down 14 was bad, but I think the guys, really realize how important it is in a game like this to make sure we get off on the right foot, and I think they always do. We're super excited about what they can do with the ball, and we want to get that on the front side of the football game. I think it was right at 34% of our plays were explosive on Saturday, and getting some of those front loaded more in the first quarter would be, I think, a lot better and put a little less stress on the team.
And last question, Alex Akin-Bulu being from UCLA, do you think he has any extra motivation towards playing his old school?
Alex is a pretty mature guy. I think he's pretty locked into being a Bulldog. I'm sure there'll be a little bit of that in the back of his mind, maybe when you warm up. But I think that eventually, when the whistle blows and the game starts, that stuff kind of goes away. I remember in 2018, Marcus Boyer was my starting center, and he played at UCLA, and kind of the same situation. And it really wasn't a factor once he got rolling in the football game. He had to just kind of focus on his execution, his job, and kind of move forward. But I'm sure for everybody, there's a little bit of that when you get there and see some of the guys. But yeah, he's been here for a while now too, so you might have forgot.
Any other questions for Coach Grubb?
All right, thank you.
All right, morning. I'll roll some questions.
Well, Coach Grubb said it was night and day at UCLA from 2018 versus what he's seen on film from the Bruins as a team so far. But have you thought about maybe the environment might be different too because the Bruins are nationally ranked and having such a good start?
Well, I would say that there's probably going to be quite a bit of that. Our environment, obviously the way they've played the first two games and the expectations they have, just like, you kind of feel it each and every year when you start out, and kind of where we're at right now too. There's a lot of confidence within the team and everyone surrounding it. So, I think it's going to be an awesome atmosphere for us to be a part of, be involved with on Saturday.
And Coach Grubb just kind of addressed the need to start fast, to get going a little faster. And it wasn't just the Oregon game. All three games, the offense has struggled a little bit early in the game before figuring things out. Is that something you guys try to explain? You say, hey, it's not worth dissecting. Let's just get it right next game.
Yeah, because you can look at every game and look at, UConn 2 years since they had played, kind of had an idea, some looks on the first drive that – weren't the same on plays that didn't have success. And you can go to week 2 and, realize that Oregon did a pretty good job against Ohio State in the first quarter and first half too. So some of that's your opponent you're playing and the respect you have for that. I think there was a couple plays early in the game on the first drive and first 2 drives this week though, where it's just like we need to execute better. We need to. They weren't showing a look or anything that we couldn't handle. We were prepared for it. It's really the first game where we've had some true film, because the Oregon game, with a new coordinator there on defense, preparing was, it was kind of a shot in the dark a little bit, And so last week against Cal Poly, certainly had a better idea, and there was a couple things that I thought we definitely should have executed better. But I think what really happens is, because of the first 2, and you got a team that is super it's super important for them to just play well all the time. They start putting unneeded pressure on themselves, especially I think when you're looking at Jake. He just wants to go right out of the gates and make it happen, and you just got to take what the defense gives you. You got to make sure you're in the right check and make sure you're communicating properly. Just all the things that we did. The next 8 possessions, I think, that we scored on. So, that's just you got to always analyze it. Our staff does that. Our staff with our players do that. But you can't just overdo it to where now you're pressing.
And specifically with Jake, I mean, his numbers are out of this world, as good as anybody in the country right now. I know it's more than numbers, though. What do you need from him Saturday in order to lead this team to victory?
Yeah, I think there's just those big moments, right, where it's the big third downs. Third down in general were pretty good, and fourth down in general were pretty good, but it's just those big plays at the game-changing moments that you just really need your quarterback and a veteran guy and to come through. And it might be as simple as seeing a look that you don't like and calling a timeout, to make sure you can get the right look the next time. I mean, I'm reversing it. We're thinking of the great throw or the great check and things like that. That's of course what we're all thinking we need in those moments. But it's just that's what you want out of a quarterback, and in order to win those big games, that's what you need.
Coach, you kind of talked about the atmosphere that we're expecting on Saturday. Did you learn anything from the atmosphere at Oregon, and how might the preparation be different this week heading into the Rose Bowl?
Well, again, I don't want to underestimate, because I've seen on the film that there's been some false starts from the noise. I'm sure that had something to do with it at the Rose Bowl here in the first 2 games. But, I think it was pretty loud at Oregon, and you look at the mistakes we had. It wasn't so much the communication, so I think we got that down. How we're communicating plays, getting the right checks. It literally was the snap count, and it's the first time we've done it with this crew, because Jake wasn't involved last year. We didn't ever have to worry about crowd noise, so we do have more reps under our belt. A few things that we know we got to be conscious of, practice those a little bit more, and be ready on Saturday.
We talk about the night and day difference that we're seeing on tape, but going back to 2018, just what do you remember about that atmosphere and that environment, and kind of going down there and coming away with a win like that?
Well, I think we remember the individual plays that were made. We all envision Marcus running in the end zone on quarterback keeps, on zone reads, and I remember Keyshawn going up and catching some big balls down the sideline and getting amped up. But I think going into that game, what I also remember is coming off of a tough one 2 weeks earlier against Minnesota, and the response. And I think that's what I always get caught up in, or want to make sure that we're, having the right response. The right response from week 1 going into Oregon, the right response from Oregon going into this next week or last week, and now from Cal Poly getting ready for the UCLA game. And as a head coach, you pay even more attention to it than you did as a coordinator. But that's I think what I remember the most is our response to what we were, the moment we were in, and a little bit of the frustration and disappointment, probably more so that year, and not being too high and not being too low and just doing our thing. I heard Coach Grubb talk about the Bulldog way or the Bulldog style, kind of doing it our way. And that's the way we got to go about this. It's still the same high standard and high level of preparation that we put in every single week. It can't fluctuate just because of who you're playing and what everyone else says is supposed to happen in the game. It's got to be the same at the high level every single week. And we expected that last week, just like we're going to expect it this week. And when we take care of our business with the talent we have, we throw it out there, we play ball, and we live with results.
Seems like every time there's a local on the opposing team, we ask you about him, but specifically with Kasmir Allen, what sort of a challenge or skill set does he provide to the UCLA team?
Yeah, speed. Just flat out speed. I mean, and they got a lot of great personnel. Offensively, Coach Inge talked about. The thing that's impressive is their tight ends. With the explosive plays and the big plays that in just 4 catches, the number of yards that he has. And I think the quarterback, from where he was at to where he's at now, is just extremely confident and understands what the purpose is on a play call. You can see even last year, just looking at the scores and seeing the close games that they were in as a team, this time has come where they're getting to the point where there's just consistent play. They're going to be in every game they play, and now they're just putting the pedal down, and as we saw against LSU. So last year's games towards the end of the season were all pretty close, and they've gotten certainly off on the right foot, and a lot of it's because their offense, is putting up some points, and now that allows their defense, which is an attacking style defense, to pin their ears back and come after you.
Coach, you've been asked a lot about the atmosphere, reliving 2018. The role for you is different this time, and I know this obviously isn't going to be your first game as a head coach, but being a coordinator in that game versus the head coach in this game with the Bulldogs, what changes for you?
Yeah, it's just the level of you're just kind of feeling what the mindset is of the guys, and just really, tomorrow morning is an important meeting, and it's an 8-minute meeting that we have as a full team, and that's where you really set the tone. Even though, we talked about some things yesterday already, getting ready for this week, you reset the tone because a little bit later we'll be on the practice field, and the energy, the mindset, all of those, the belief, we talk about that every week, and just the trusting of the process that we go through. And that's kind of where your focus is, and the plays, involved with the offense, involved with the defense and special teams on certain schemes, and just, challenging, to make sure that we're thorough and diligent in everything we do, like we always are. And that's probably the biggest thing, is just overseeing where the mindset is of the players and a little bit the staff, just to be thorough and diligent, and to question whenever there's something that you just want to make sure, hey, did you see this? We got the answers here, but did you also see this clip on film, and are we ready for that? Having answers ready to go, and keeping the guys in an attacking mindset.
Coach Grubb was asked about the status of Cesar Silva. Is it at the point right now where Abe has played himself into the conversation, where even if Cesar is healthy, Abe might have won that job?
I think we have a lot of confidence in Abe. Cesar, if we had absolutely had to kick him and not had the comfort of Abe and even Andre, to do some kickoffs, I think Cesar could have gone. But it's too long of a season, and we just do not want to risk hurting Cesar. We've seen a little bit, I think, of what Cesar, I really emphasized it after week 1. Those kickoffs, he had 5 out of 7 touchbacks, and one was, one he didn't get was after a penalty, so we were kicking from our own 20. So we didn't quite get those touchbacks here the last couple of weeks. We got a couple, but not as many, and then I think, probably what you're really referring to is the field goals. And I got to say that I think, Cesar's just so much improved. And, is he perfect? No. He obviously missed a 51-yarder, but he hammered it, and it was halfway up the uprights. And Abe's a great kicker and going to continue to develop. I think Cesar's probably still just a little bit more polished when it's all said and done. And we'll certainly, always keep competition open just like we would any other position. And it's healthy competition because those guys support each other. Specialists, as we all know, are their own little group in themselves, and it's really cool seeing those guys just love each other up and have appreciation for each other's success. And the relationship that is amongst that group is at a high level, and the morale is at a high level right now because they're all having success and doing a really good job.
Playing a school like UCLA, it's not escaping anybody in this building, anybody in this city, the opportunity that's in front of you. It's a constant reminder of where we are in the college football landscape. And now that the Big 12 is back up to 12 teams, I'm curious, do you have an opinion on the latest shifting, and where do you see Fresno State falling when all the dominoes are dropped?
Well, I mean, I don't have a huge opinion other than just, you got to keep moving forward. So when the opportunities come up and, obviously some of those decisions have been made already of how, the Big 12 is adjusting their, who they're bringing in. But, we just got to keep moving forward. We got to take care of our business. I got to do it as a football coach. Our university and, of course, our athletic department need to just continue to be forward thinking and moving on to where when the right opportunity comes up, you go for it. I just, in anything that you do, I don't care if it's a player at one school or a coach at a school or whatever it is, you always want what looks pretty, right? You just got to always remember the grass isn't always greener on the other side, and you got to make sure you're in the right place. Now, a lot of times that's a positive, but we just got to always be evaluating. But you do have to make sure we're always moving forward so that when the right opportunity comes up, we're ready to jump on it. No question.
Coach, two quick questions for me. First, they don't get talked about a lot, but like you said, like the special teams play that you guys have had this year, whether it be, the kickoffs, the touchbacks, field position, how confident do you feel, with your special teams, if you need a punt to get the team, to get the opposing team along field, knowing that your defense is playing really good right now?
Yeah. I think when you evaluate each part of the kick game, I won't go into it too much, but the field goal team, we've had success there. I think that we've done a great job there. I think in the punting game, we would just like Carson to have a little more consistency. He'll hit the big one and then just not quite hammer and be as consistent with the big punt that we know he's capable every single time. But as far as our communication, our coverage on that, it's been pretty good. I think the kickoff team, when they haven't gone in the end zone, I think we've done a really good job in all but one, probably against Oregon. The starting position was inside the 25 again this last week. And I just really feel that's a tribute to the depth we have on our team. That's where you really see it, is in the punt team and the kickoff team, because those guys that are running down the field and covering, we want our best players out there. And so if we have to put our starters that are on offense and defense out there, we will do that. But I think what you're seeing is more of our guys that aren't the starters involved and it not dropping off. That's the key. And so it's really cool seeing guys that take those roles and take them seriously. A story just kind of from the fall, just to give you an idea of the competitiveness within our program. We track every single rep by every single game, by every single guy, all fall camp. Every drill they do, not just the full team rep, every drill. Coach Schmidt is so thorough. And we have a stat tracker that shows the guys that we have a win and a loss for every single guy. And, you can see the stat tracker, and there's times when we tell them they have to take the rep, and then there's times when get in line and get your rep at this drill and learning this technique. And we still track those. And we were getting on some of our younger guys in the middle, second, third week of fall camp because they didn't have as many reps. And those guys' response, and this is the key, those guys' response was that they're trying to get those reps in during that 10-minute segment or that 5-minute segment, but they can't because the older guys are getting on there. And it's not the older guys that are just the starters, it's the older guys. People always talk about they want to make the bus, right? And that's a way right now, because our team is competitive and got some depth. That's where the guys see that they got to make the bus and they can make a difference. And it's really cool. Deante Perry was our special teams player of the game this last week, and seeing what he's bringing, and he's a great defensive player for us as well. But it's a role that he takes a lot of pride in. Stephen Comstock, is a guy that is learning the defensive ropes after being a quarterback. But it starts with making special teams plays and getting us, and then we're using him to get us in the right looks and do some things there and communicate. And so the strengths of guys, I think we're doing a really good job of utilizing them, and then competitiveness is something that's really cool to see amongst our team.
And then just my second question is, you guys have already sold, Fresno State's already sold 2,000, tickets, the allotment that they got. You guys requested 100 more, and, there could be up to 4,000, 5,000 Fresno State fans at UCLA. With the game being in California and the red wave travels really well. I mean, the last time there was a game there was tons of Fresno State fans. Even when you walk in through the tunnel at the end of the game, you had that scene where everybody's yelling. Just what's it mean to you guys to have a red wave presence at the Rose Bowl this upcoming Saturday?
Yeah, I definitely remember that, and that was a new feeling for me at the time. Being here at Fresno State in my second year, walking out there and just feeling that support. It was loud. We go back to even this weekend, the guys just feed off of the energy. And, we talked about it Sunday again, how great it was having the red wave in full force and this last weekend. And it would be a huge key, just knowing you got that group behind you that's excited about what route we're on, what path we're on, but also just the environment at that time and what the energy that they can bring as a red wave, even when you're on the road. So hopefully we make some plays early and get them fired up and get them rowdy, and we can feed off their energy and they can feed off of ours.
Coach, earlier you mentioned UCLA's tight end and the big plays that he's had. Just what goes into stopping him from breaking off one of those long ones, and how challenging will that be against him on Saturday?
Yeah, well, it comes because they're playing very physical and they're running the football. They're running the football extremely well, and they're physical. Their backs are breaking tackles. They got a two-headed monster back there for sure that we have to run to the ball and tackle and have great pursuit. But then what happens is, because you're focused on it, your eyes are in the backfield, and now that play action opens up, and that's where some of those really big plays are happening. And he made some nice plays. He made some nice moves after the catch and finished off a big play on one of those play actions. And so, number one, it's identification, stopping the run, slowing down the run, so that way, the play action is not as impactful. And then the second thing is you got to bring them down.
Coach, you talked about after the loss at Oregon that you learned from that loss for future matchups, and 2 weeks later, here you are again facing a ranked Pac-12 opponent on the road. What did you learn from that matchup at Oregon that you're going to use on Saturday against UCLA?
I'm sure. I just think that it verifies that we have a group of guys that no matter the situation, they'll just keep playing. And Sunday's meeting after Oregon, it's a 15, 20-minute team meeting, celebrating the successes of guys, because we do that every week still. But the number one thing I wanted to pound into guys, I showed the score of the game and asked them what they were thinking in each of those moments. Down 7-0, down 14-0, down 14-3, down 14-6, down 21-6, and then 12 seconds to go at the end of the half, down 21-6, in just barely inside the 20. I remember it because we went through it, and the mindset can't change. Yes, you got to understand the situation, but the mindset can't change. The mindset I have to have complete focus on what lies in front of me right now. And I'm going to do everything the best of my ability. And that's what our team does right now. I think a really good job of, no matter how high or how low it is at that time, the only thing we can control is what's next.
How would you compare Jalen Henderson's college debut to Logan Fife's college debut?
Yeah, they're different players, and we got Jalen in there. I guess Logan got in there pretty early too, and so Logan, got a few more passes off probably. If I think back on, I can't remember exactly how many attempts he had, but both of them had times where they showed that they don't have a lot of college snaps under their belt, and that's why it's so important, to get those snaps when you can. And that's why, even though Jake could have come back in the first game and where the score was at, it was just important for us to get those reps for Logan. Just executing, just calling a play, I think I referred to it the other night, but just after a TV timeout, how clean it is when you got a veteran breaking the huddle and knowing, okay, the clock's going to go down, the official's going to blow his whistle, and here we go. Some of those things just are taken for granted, but a young quarterback might have his whole team lined up there waiting for 15 seconds until the media says, all right, here we go, and got a chance to, not just talk that through with Jalen, but for him to, actually go through those things. And thought he did a good job. And when he takes off and runs, it's different, they're different styles. And Logan is mobile, but Jalen is explosive, and Logan probably has a little better idea still more base as far as the passing game. And you can still see the tools that Jalen has when he cuts it loose and it comes out of his hand, how explosive the ball is. And so those guys are doing a great job. It's hard for each of them because each of them have played, just like the questions you have of who's the number two. We just try to always communicate ahead of time and let them know, so that way there's never any surprises when we're in the heat of the moment in the middle of that game. And those guys have done an awesome job. Number one, being there for Jake, helping him communicate, signal, whatever it might be. And then number two, just being a team player and continue to develop is what it's all about. Don't get caught up in where you're at now. Just be caught up in making sure you're getting better every single day.
Coach, Oregon was pretty impressive across the board. Are there particular strengths UCLA has that are greater challenges than you've already faced?
I think that Oregon had some of those. Thibodeau is just an elite guy. And, Sewell and those guys. You have these explosive guys. I feel like there's more balance by UCLA across the board. And that's all respect to Oregon too, right? But because they're obviously an amazing team. But UCLA, I just feel like they're really balanced, and you can see that they're quite a few years into their systems now, where they know what they want to be, they understand the identity, they've gotten their personnel in. Coach Inge said it best. They're physical, but they also schematically are always going to put you in a predicament because they're stealing gaps away from you with their formations, and then they'll throw in some tempo. And there's just a good balance and a good rhythm to everything they're doing, offensively and defensively. And you can see why they're doing it. And they're playing team football, not making big mistakes. I don't think they've fumbled yet. In fact, I don't even know if they've turned it over this season yet. So, they're just doing a good job playing team football.
And defensively, how similar or different is that scheme that you game planned against 3 years ago for UCLA?
It just seems like they're more confident, more aggressive in what they do. I felt like we were able to have a pretty good idea where everything was coming from. I think their disguises, you can tell it's in they're in the 300, 400 level class. Like we are offensively, and how we've talked about last year and this year, fourth and fifth year in the offense. Now you can see that they're so much further into their concepts, and the guys are disguising things, and the coaching staff can, use the experience and not just the talents that these guys have, but the experience that these guys have with the calls to help hide the looks, make it really hard on Jake and on our offense. And the offense that UCLA runs, you don't know if it's going to be a run or a play action or a pass out of every formation they're running. It's just they're doing a good job of really honing in on what they are and what their identity is.
Coach, how do you game plan to limit a quarterback so versatile like Dorian Thompson-Robinson, and then also they have the two-back committee in Charbonnet and Britton Brown?
Yeah, that's what makes it all hard, right? Just like we talk about our receiving core and our running backs, you can't stop them all. because the next guy's just going to step up and make a play. That's what gets hard against them. You try to really focus on stopping the running backs, and now all of a sudden the quarterback's making plays with his feet or finding tight ends and receivers in the play action game. So that's what good teams do. That's what good offenses do. That's the challenge, right? You just got to be super disciplined. You got to trust the guy that lines up next to you, the guys that are behind you, and the guys that are in front of you on defense. And you just got to trust, and they're going to make plays. They're going to make plays, and so it's tackling and getting the guy down so you can live to see another down. And when you can see another down, you give yourself another chance to get a tackle for loss, get a turnover, and keep playing ball. And so that's what we got to do on Saturday for sure.
Any more questions for Coach DeBoer?
All right, thank you guys. Yep.